Hi, I'm Tim Bradner. Welcome to Capital Views, and welcome today to Chris Rose, the Executive Director of Renewable Energy Alaska. Welcome, Chris.
Thanks, Tim. Nice to be here.
Chris, tell us what Renewable Energy Alaska is. You've been around for a while, very active in Alaska energy matters.
Sure. So REAP, Renewable Energy Alaska Project's been around since 2004 now. We are a statewide nonprofit group that is focused on promoting energy efficiency and renewable energy through collaboration, training, advocacy, education, and we work in the schools around the state, but we also work with the public and policymakers to educate them about clean energy.
And one of your members include major utilities, as I recall.
Right. We have a very wide group of members that also comprise our board of directors. So that includes some of the railbelt utilities. Actually, all the railbelt utilities are members. Some of them are on the board. Then we have a lot of utilities from around the state as well, smaller utilities that are doing a lot with renewables. We have educational institutions, businesses, developers, a wide range of folks that are interested in the energy space.
Chris, switching to the topic of energy generally, Alaska, we've had this kind of goal of being 50% self-sufficient with renewable energy for some years, just as a goal. And as I recall, we have a lot of hydro power now, and so we're probably about 25%, do you think? How are we going to get to 50%?
Yeah, it depends on the water year, but roughly 22 to 25% renewable statewide. In the rail belt, though, that's only roughly 15% because we have a few hydro projects here in the rail belt, but a lot of the hydro in the state is actually located in the southeast, which is closer to 100% in many of those communities. So statewide, close to 20, 25. We're going to have to really start moving to increase that percentage in the Cook Inlet area because we're so dependent on natural gas. And the utilities have not done a lot of non-hydro renewables over the last 10 years or so. Meanwhile, in the United States, for instance, last year, actually in 2020, we don't have the numbers for 2021 yet, but in 2020, 42% of all new capacity additions in the lower 48 were wind, and another 24% were solar. So 3/4 of all the new electric generators in the United States in 2020 were either wind or solar because it's cheaper than natural gas. And yet we're still more than 80% reliant on natural gas here in Cook Inlet, which is an expensive market.
Yeah, that's not a good situation to be in because in the long run, natural gas is going to decline. It's a non-renewable resource. But also the prices of natural gas in Cook Inlet are high relative to the national average. Where are we with our overall electricity in the rail belt? Our electrical power costs are higher than the national average?
Well, you're right. The gas production in Cook Inlet peaked in the 1990s, and it was around 2010 that the legislature took notice and realized that the price was going to keep going up. We were very dependent, so they put in a piece of legislation called the Cook Inlet Recovery Act, which resulted in more than $1.4 billion in tax credits to the gas industry in Cook Inlet. Despite that, we are still seeing increased prices. So Cook Inlet gas has gone up more than 5 times in the last 25 years or so. So we're now just under $8 for gas here. Meanwhile, we're just under $4 in the lower 48. So more than double the cost of natural gas for the utilities. They used to be triple until just very recently when Henry Hub prices started really going up in the last year. But in terms of actual electricity cost to the consumer, in the lower 48, the average electricity price is about 13 cents a kilowatt hour. We're now in the rail belt, we're around 20. And in fact, a lot of that increase has just happened in the last 10 years or so. So we are more than 50% more expensive for electricity in the rail belt region than in the lower 48. And that's going to stifle investment in the state. If you're a company that wants to come to Alaska and invest and start a business, your utility costs are going to be something you're going to look at. And so we're very dependent on gas for heat and transportation in Cook Inlet. And that's something that we could change because the technology is there today.
Chris, just looking at the rail belt, what are the options for renewable? We have a couple of fairly substantial solar projects that are underway now. One is operating near Willow, and another is proposed for the Kenai Peninsula. I mean, are there more
Right.
things like that? More
There's
wind?
actually three. One contract just got signed between MEA and a solar independent power producer for 6 megawatts in the Houston area. That has to still be approved by the Regulatory Commission of Alaska, but that's a 6 megawatt project. And as you said, the same company is looking at a possible 20 megawatt solar project on the Kenai Peninsula. We're seeing solar beat the price of natural gas-fired power in the rail belt already. And that's pretty interesting, but not surprising given the high price of natural gas fired power in the rail belt. Likewise, we have a lot of wind power potential up and down the rail belt. Some of the utilities haven't even begun to explore what their wind power potential is. Meanwhile, we have some other resources that places in the lower 48 would love to have. We've got possibility of geothermal not that far away from the grid. We have the possibility of commercializing tidal power in Cook Inlet in the next 10 or 15 years. So we have a lot of resources that lower 48 might not even consider being able to, in most places, to develop.
That's interesting. So we have a lot of opportunities and things that we could maybe speed the transition more. Plus, it'll have a pocketbook benefit in the rail belt.
Well, that's right. And all this renewable energy development is taking place now because it's more economical. Like I mentioned, in 2020, 3/4 of all new electric generators in the whole country were wind or solar. And that's happening because it's cheaper than natural gas, even in the lower 48, where gas is half the cost of what it is here in Cook Inlet. So you can imagine the ability for us to increase our wind and solar. And, you know, sometimes you hear, well, you need storage. Well, storage is also increasingly coming down in price. I just read an article the other day that stated that lithium ion batteries have come down 97% in the last 30 years. And US Department of Energy is working to decrease that price by another 90% in the next 10 years. So storage is going to continue to be more and more ubiquitous, and more projects will be hybrids, wind, solar, and storage together.
Well, Chris, this is very interesting, and we look forward to talking more about this. And I know the legislature and all Alaskans should be interested in this because we all bear the burden of high energy costs. Well, Chris, thank you for joining us today.
Well, thanks a lot, Tim. Have a great day.
Right.